Welcome back to the Kooper Scoop, your one stop for Paper Mario-like, and quirky RPGs discussion group all around.
That's
Is your host?
Crazy.
Yeah. I'm your host, Twopie, and with me I have Shyblooks.
Yeah, hello, I'm Shyblooks. I'm the other host. You know me from the Kooper Scoop episode 1 and the Kooper Scoop episode 2. It's really cool. You should check it out.
Pretty sick episodes, I know. I hear.
Yeah, episode 2 was a legitimate banger.
Alright, so we are back here continuing our, if you watched episode 2, which you should, our breakdown of our thoughts on the current Paper Mario games that are released as of this time. And we've already talked about the first game to an extent, so now we are going to the second game, which is Paper Mario and the Thousand-Year Door, originally released on the GameCube.
Woo, GameCube, let's go, best console.
Yes. Funny, this is going to be very funny to discuss too, just because, like the N64, the GameCube was another console that was, very loved, but didn't sell very well. Things will be changing soon, as people will know, for the next game.
Oh my
god.
But,
yeah, Thousand-Year Door was on another console that didn't do so hot, but it's also interesting to talk about too, because now we're actually dealing with the sequel, and even though Paper Mario 64 was technically a sequel to Super Mario RPG, it wasn't really like the same kind of sequel. This is a direct sequel where, we're continuing the angle, the story elements from Paper Mario 64 2000-Year Door. You have any good thoughts on the GameCube, Shy?
Oh, the GameCube itself?
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. It has like the Game Boy player, which is like an attachment for the lower end side of the cube, and it actually makes it look like a genuine cube instead of just like, like the GameCube is not a perfect cube, and that bothers me.
I actually love the game player and how the way it attached. I thought it was
it's
so cool.
Sick. I have it right next to me here. Funnily enough,
so cool. So yeah, shocker. This was during the era of the PS2, which the PS2 itself was such a crazy console in terms of sale and how everyone had one. It was basically like the cheapest DVD player / console you could get at the time. And yeah, no wonder why GameCube didn't sell so hot. Like, big shocker there. But it still had a lot of cool games, a lot of very timeless games that even to this day, like playing it normally or up-res on an emulator, still look really good. And we get some pretty banger RPGs as well, in addition to Thousand-Year Door. For a lot of people, this is actually their introduction to the Tales series, and as well as Sky of Arcadia was a good RPG. There was another game. It was like Banto, something like, it was a card game. It was weird.
Oh, it used to be. I only know Mario Sunshine and TTYD. Sorry.
No, I'm talking. Yeah, there was, again, I'm trying to think of RPGs. There's also Gotcha Force. That was a pretty good one too. The Pokemon Coliseum games debuted here, which in turn, they were their own little RPGs, even though they didn't play like traditional Pokemon. But yeah, we had a decent amount of RPGs. I'm probably very much forgetting a lot of them right now, because I know it's happened. They're going to come to me after the podcast, but yeah. But now we're talking about Thousand-Year Door, the game that is a sequel to Paper Mario 64. And it is interesting talking about a sequel just because now we have to compare it to the original, and doing a good sequel is pretty weird, honestly. I don't think it's hard. Like, obviously, it's like, yeah, you take the first game and make it better, right? But at the same time, it's like, there's a certain level to it. Like, when it comes to sequels, it's very odd to see a sequel that completely outclasses the first game to a point where it's like, why would you play it? Or, it has its own different take on it, so it's like a different experience.
Yep, go on.
I was gonna ask you, Shy, like, what do you think in terms of sequels do you, like, shoot for? Do you like the ones that, like, just flat out improve the first game, or deliver a different experience?
I mean, that's a wacky question you got there. I honestly...
It's a little wacky.
Like for that, I have to like look at the sequels of games that I like, and I'm like, I literally I have one series in my mind because I cannot think of any other game series right now for some reason.
Yeah, isn't it weird when you're like recording and you're just like, wow, I'm just kind of drawing a blank now.
Yeah, I can literally only think of Mario and Luigi series right now, where I'm like, I don't know, do they do that? Do they do the second thing? I don't know. They like, kind of not. Depends on the game. I don't know. I don't think I care as long as the game is good.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's like, hey, as long as it's good. I know, some people are kind of weird about that. There are some game series, I believe, that sort of just outclass the first game to a point where there's like no real reason to play it. In some aspects, some people think of this for, not me personally, I know some people think of this for Pokemon, like especially the casual fans. Like a lot of them won't play the older games, they'll just be like, oh, let's play the newer game. It's like, why would I? Because, quality of life features and all that stuff. But, you know, to me, I believe each gen is pretty interesting to play, even like going back in time. And I believe Thousand Year Door. This is the episode where it's going to be kind of wacky too, because like the cult around Thousand Year Door, people worship that game. That game is like, that game is like considered the messiah of like RPGs. And
oh my god,
we're gonna tell you straight up right now that, you know, me and Shai do not think that, and we're going to discuss why we do not think that. And this is like, yeah, of course, people are gonna be like, oh, why would you play Thousand Year Door, or like, why would you play 64 when Thousand Year Door is so good? It's like, well, we're gonna go buy it. So let's go ahead and start with the story of and how it starts in Thousand Year Door. Shai, give us the run by here.
Okay, so this is very crazy. So Peach is like in God, I don't know the English name for that city right now. You gotta tell me the starting.
Report?
Yes. Peach arrives there with like her gang. She like finds some shady dude who sells her a box, and that box is crazy. She like opens it and there's a map inside. I think is the one, right?
That is the map. Yeah, that's where she found the map.
Yes, and then she like sends the map over to Mario, and stuff happens. It's great. I don't remember the like pre-plot. I don't know when Peach gets abducted, because honestly,
it's actually funny when you brought that up, because like in the beginning of the game, Peach does send Mario the map, and it's very a fun little cheeky joke where she's like, well, Mario, I sent you the map, so that means you have to come now, bro. And Mario's just like, like Peach finds the map, and she's like, bro, I want to go on this adventure. Let me get Mario hugged, like snagged in here. Like, there's no initial danger, by the way, with the quest at first. Like, Peach finds the map like through a salesman, and then she just wants to go on this little quest around Roadport and the area surrounding it, which we are outside the Mushroom Kingdom at this point. And this is a common trend that we're going to see with a lot of Mario games, RPG or not, that they're always outside the Mushroom Kingdom. And this is one of the bigger ones. Like, you go to so many places here. So yeah, she sends Mario along with the map, and at that point, everyone kind of remembers the story that Mario learns that Peach is kidnapped by a mysterious group. He has to look for the crystal stars, which, you know, are just the next level of collectibles. Sans the star spirits, and we are off to the races there, you know? So
let's go. It's so crazy.
So when we talk about a sequel, we let's go ahead and talk about the setup. So right now we have the first setup here. We have Star Spirits versus the Crystal Stars, where Mario was looking for the Star Spirits in order to conquer against Bowser and the power of the Star Rod. Now Mario is looking for the Crystal Stars as his clue to help find Peach and wherever the hell she's got. So essentially it's the same plot, right? We're rescuing Peach.
No, it's a better plot because the Crystal Stars don't talk for half an hour.
Oh, okay. You're not a fan of the Star Spirits talking.
the only one that I can accept is the one after Shy Guy's Toy Box. Like, there's a reason Twink sims for him. He's fucking poggers.
Sure, he's pretty cool.
The other ones, they just miss me hard. Okay.
What, bro? You're not a fan of the? I don't remember their names. They have all names, right?
Yes, I think they.
They all have names. Yeah. Dude, no. I remember Elder Star. That's the first one. What was the second one's name?
Mamar.
Mamar?
Yes.
I thought that was the 5th one. Oh, okay.
No, that's like that's the prostitute one.
Cool.
She like hangs out on the streets at night and is like, hey, you wanna kiss?
Oh no. So anyway, yeah, we're going.
Am I wrong though?
Here. No, I'm going past this. Going past this. So before we go more into the game, this is still the game that still carries the traditional RPG. So everything is mostly the same here. If you played 64, you go into combat, it's turn-based, you beat up the guys, you get XP points, you level up. And traditionally, nothing much changes aside from a few little things you'll notice as soon as you start the game. For one thing, you already have the hammer and jump right off the bat. You have action commands right off the bat. And you have a new fun little mechanic where instead of pressing the regular button to guard, you can press a different button to nullify all damage. And it's crazy. New mechanics and everything. Boy, this game is getting better, Shot. We're making the game better.
Yeah, super guarding. That makes every game better. 100% of the community agrees.
So, Shai, what about super guarding? Huh? What about it? Why don't you tell us about it a bit?
Well, if it is the challenge run enabler for TTYD, which is both interesting and awful at the same time. It is the most busted mechanic in the entire game, and some might argue it probably should have never existed. What does it do? You press the B button in a like 2 to 3 frame window and you don't get hit. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's funny. So that's actually one of the big things. Now, obviously, for the people who are like kind of casually playing these games, they're gonna be like, "Oh, well, some tryhards don't like super guarding." Like, you know, it's like it's very funny. But like, yeah, it's sort of a funny move just because like, yeah, you kind of just if you just learn the super guard timing versus learning the guarding timing, there's really no point to guard. Like you just rather super guard, just nullify all the damage. Hell, at some points it does damage back. So, you know, it's just so much more optimal. Now, funny enough, there are moves that, you know, can hit past super guarding, but those moves don't really factor in until much later. I think only one enemy does it, right? Is there not?
Bonetail, if you hear this, I fucking hate you. Never bite me ever again.
Okay.
Yeah, the dragon bites can't be guarded at all. And I'm sure there's some other moves, but hello, I know I don't play TTYD.
I mean, yeah, the final boss, quote-unquote final boss's move, yeah. So yeah, as you can see,
yeah,
these
I think those are
mentioned,
guardable. I think that's like a Japanese thing where they weren't guardable, and then for the international release they adjusted that.
Oh, really? Huh, didn't know that. That's interesting. Okay, well, there you go. So yeah, basically, aside from Bonetail, I suppose, most good moves are just super guardable. So yeah, that mechanic's very fun. Me personally, from a casual point, that don't really like matter to me. And that doesn't matter to a lot of people. But it is interesting how that mechanic, while sounds cool on paper, does invalidate like the guard or basically anything really in combat. And it kind of adds to the problem where a lot of the Mario RPGs, while being very easy, and that does make it easy for challenge runners to do their thing, they still come off pretty easy. Like, I'm pretty sure you really don't even need the mechanic just because this game kind of follows the same difficulty trend as the first game, where you kind of can just play the game normally, not worry about abilities, hit as hard as possible, and you'll probably be all right. The combat does like take it up a notch with more badges, the more partner interactions, like the partners have health and they can use items. So you're getting a lot more stuff that you can play around with. But the difficulty isn't much tougher at the same time. And that makes the game kind of a snooze fest at first. So now we get to the point where we all talk about like the general pace of the game, where
oh no,
yeah, this is kind of where the part where we talk about the game. Again, we're trying to review the game. Like, this podcast is just us reviewing the game, so it's gonna be out of order. Like, we've already played 2000 Year Door, and if anyone who hasn't played 2000 Year Door yet and you're reading this is gonna be spoiler, and we already did anyway, so just keep that in mind here. Talk about the pace of the game. So And this is kind of one of the big things about the game, where a lot of people feel like the first game was paced perfectly. Me personally.
For a second though, a hot take: if you watch a fucking Paper Mario podcast and you're worried about spoilers for a Paper Mario game, I think you got the wrong number.
Yeah, I'm just saying it. You know, I'm just putting it out there. I feel like this should it should go without saying. Just So yeah, let's talk about the pace. And pace is really important, and it really shows in this game, just because. Good God, some of the pacing it goes through goes so south. So obviously, I think the pacing in the first game. I think a lot of people think the pacing in the first game is fine, perfect, even. But like again, this is one of those things where we're kind of rating the game based on its age, where there's not much of examples of pacing going on in the N64 era with RPGs, aside from like your Final Fantasy games. And even then, it compares relatively well. With Thousand Year Door, the pacing seems pretty similar until it hits to a point where it's not similar, and it's trying to do a lot of different things to try to make itself different from the first game. Which, again, this goes back to that whole thing I was talking about, where a sequel is either gonna eclipse the first game completely, or try to deliver a different experience. I believe it was trying to do the whole different experience thing, which is why everything pacing-wise seems a bit off at first. Like, Chapter 1, I believe, is kind of similar to Chapter 1 in the first game, but if you really look at it, like, it really tries to reuse a lot of the space it has. And it doesn't get to, like, that bad. It's, like, kind of nitpicky at that point, but, yeah, this is kind of the weird thing with this game. And when it comes to the chapters, there's some pretty infamous chapters in this game. Very infamous in the community.
Ooh, Chapter 2, Chapter 4, Chapter 6.
Yeah, there's some pretty crazy chapters. Now, before we continue on, again, we're kind of like digging into the meat of the game. Obviously, I'm going to talk about how it is as an RPG whole and how it is as a game whole. But, this is a Paper Mario podcast. We want to dig into the really meat and potatoes of this. And we want to tell you, the people watching this, what the community thought of the chapters and why they're so infamous, especially for people who's like played the games recently, played them all the time, or speedrunners and challengers alike. So we go to Chapter 1. Chapter 1 is pretty straightforward. Mario goes to the village. There is a dragon. It's actually pretty interesting, just because it feels like a kind of a fairy tale story of Mario fighting the dragon. Kind of liked it a lot, actually.
I just hate the tower.
Yeah.
Where they show off the camera for an hour straight. You're trying to walk up the stairs.
To be fair, this whole game's Chapter 1 is sort of a showcase on the new features of the GameCube's.
Yeah, but you have to go up there twice when you want Miss Mouse later.
Yeah.
They make you go up there twice, because why the hell not?
So yeah, in the first chapter, you're introduced to a lot of different enemies, and as well as options, like areas where like a shit ton of enemies appear. And it's like this. I remember this actually very vividly, because like in old Game Informer magazines, they'll show off like, look at the processing power of the GameCube. Look at all these enemies rendered at once, which was still cool. It actually looks nice. It's just very funny to think about it, because like Chapter 1 felt like a showcase in what the game was offering graphically. There was all the enemy bunches you'd see there. Then there's the panning camera shots where you're going to like long strides, going back and forth. It's very cool, very interesting. But yeah, this is where the pace issue of the game kind of rears its ugly head at first. Like, you'll see a little bit of it and you're like, it's not that bad, but then it gets kind of worse the more we play the game. Again, your first playthrough is always magical, but when you ever want to play through Paper Mario games, you're gonna see why it's kind of hard for people to play through the second game more than the first game, and pacing kind of pops up. So Chapter 1, not bad. Even like the boss too, and the way they tackled the boss's whole weakness and stuff. Chapter 2, Chapter 2, this feels unfair, because I think Chapter 2 in the first game was whatever, honestly. And I like to say that I think Chapter 2 here visually is nice and has cute, nice music and stuff. but my god, it feels like such a slog. Like, it is such a sleepy chapter.
Honestly, it wasn't as bad when I played during the challenge. I'm not saying I'm a fan, but it wasn't horrible.
Yeah, I'm talking about people who kind of like... See, this is the thing where it's like, I'm trying to be cool about this, where it's like, I've played the game a lot, and it's like, this chapter particularly isn't too bad for me. I kind of get it, and I think it's visually, I think it's beautiful. I think it's a beautiful chapter. I think in terms of showing the visual ability of the GameCube, I think it's a pretty good standout for it. It's very pretty. But it feels so slow sometimes. Especially that part where you're getting the necklace, right?
Oh boy.
And you're going back and forth there. Yeah.
That's the thing the game loves to do, making you
the game loves to do this. It's very odd because it feels so nitpicky to talk about, but like the game does it so often, and the first game does it. Like, that's one of the big parts I always see where it's just like, you walk here to the house, she's like, oh, my necklace. You walk back, get the necklace, you walk back to the house. And it's like, it's not like you're like, you're going through 3 screens of transition for this. And then you're gonna walk back again for the tree. It's, oh my god, it's so insane, bro.
Yeah, like I brought this up in the last one. Like, you have in 64, chapter 5, when you get to the Raven, you don't have to go through those jungle screens again, they just create a shortcut. Meanwhile here, they don't ever do that.
Yeah, I don't get it. It's like they had the answer for this, where it's like, of course you don't want the player to like backtrack, right? Or like get the game boring. And at the same time, you want your maps to be like, you know, nice and consistent. Like, you know, oh, you can feel the distance, like you're in a faraway land and all that stuff. But like, you can make shortcuts. If there was a shortcut here, or maybe there was a way to transition yourself to the tree, like, I don't know. They could have done so many things. They just made you walk back. It's so funny. And we haven't even like really start chapter 2. This was all before like getting into the tree. Like, oh man. Again, this is all just the pacing. The pacing of the game. It just hits so differently. Again, when you're in your first playthrough, you don't notice these things. You're just kind of like, you're there for the ride, you know? Then you play it once or twice or think about it, you're like, wow, I actually really had to do that. And it really poisons you on like your opinion on the game. Aside from that, chapter 2 was pretty neat. It introduces like the main like antagonist group and how you have to like, kind of deal with them. There's the fun Pikmin-esque area, like gameplay mechanic that people love, I assume.
What? Who loves that?
Yeah, you weren't as fan of, you know, controlling little boys and just blowing them around? Chai,
if it wouldn't take like an hour to blow them to the other side, then it would be okay. But like that's like the part where I'm like, yes, this is. It's like making you walk back and forth without the walking.
Yeah, and again, I want to stress this enough. It's like, it sounds nitpicky, I know, but like, if you want your gameplay to not just be turn-based battle RPG, you want the gameplay to be different and new and fresh, that wasn't it. Like, that wasn't it at all. There are so many things you could have done, and they just made it so annoying. Like, oh man, bro. Chapter 2 is already like just so funny. Like, it's such a funny chapter to go into. And then, like, we're done with chapter 2 here. I already talked enough about it. We go to chapter 3, and chapter 3 is pretty interesting. So, for anyone out here who is, you know, frequently Paper Mario groups or played the game, people regard chapter 3 as the best shit since sex. Like, they love that chapter. Like, you know this, Shy. Everyone loves chapter 3.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I can confirm. Biddy is a boner for chapter 3, for example.
Everyone has a like boner for chapter 3.
No, I
chapter
don't.
3
I
is
really
like,
don't.
Let me get to that. Chapter 3 is like the golden child, bro. It's like, this chapter invalidates everything else. All like chapter 3, God tier. And to most people who like playing Paper Mario, and yeah, chapter 3 is like, you know, fucking rock hard. I like chapter 3's aesthetic. You're in a fighting arena. You have the big boisterous character, Rock Hawk, who is like the big, like, I'm the best. You're in a fighting arena. But like, nothing really happens in this chapter. Like, you fight, yes. You do little conditions, yes. But that's it. There's no dungeon. You're just doing straight combat. And then you get little puzzles here and there, which are cute. But like, at the end of the day, you're just gonna sit in one spot, go to the next fight. And they didn't really change it up a lot. Like, I'm not trying to make this chapter sound bad, but they could have done this chapter a lot better in order to fit the mold that like the RPG was doing, where it's like you go into the new area, you figure out the issue, there's a dungeon. Like, there's no dungeon in this. Like, there's little segments you do in here, there's no dungeon. You're just fighting. Like, there's no like really cool change to the gameplay, really. You're just doing fights. And I guess with how like annoying chapter 2 was, I guess people just love chapter 3 just because like you're not walking back and forth. So yeah, I think chapter 3 is all right. I think it's a nice little break from what you had to deal with chapter 2. But I definitely don't agree that it's like best shit since sliced bread, because it also has a pacing issue where you're just kind of just doing combat straight up for 2 hours. like
You act as if that's not amazing.
Like, again, like, I mean, yeah, I can't, if you're into that shit, like, you know, go for it. It's just me, I didn't think it was like that amazing. I thought it was fine. I thought it was fun, but didn't think it was amazing.
I think the issue this chapter has is that it's very backloaded.
Yeah, that too. It's weird.
Like, because the fights just aren't interesting until you get to like the top 5 or so.
That's a big thing too. It's like they could have made the fights a lot more, like, I felt like this chapter narratively could have been a lot better with like a lot more characters that had more personality, which they do. Like, you don't get those personalities unless you talk to them. But, you know, it would be fun if they were just more like characters like Rockhawk, who were, you know, big boisterous pieces of shit that wanted to be like, hey, Mario. We had a few characters like that. I wish we just had more. And the way they did the big fight to the major leagues was one good example of that. I wish more of that happened in the chapter. Let's see here. And aside from that, yeah, chapter 3 was cool. Bowser cameo was still fucking cool too. I like that. But yeah, I think it's a weird chapter. It wasn't the greatest shit. Of course, if we're gonna be talking about chapters now we talk about chapter 4.
No, we talk about chapter 5 because chapter 4 isn't real.
Oh no, Shy. Chapter 4 is real, and it exists.
It can't be real. I played through it in like under 2 hours when I played it. Like, hello.
Oh my god. Look, I'm gonna be on record here. I fucking hate chapter 4 though. Like, boy. I used to love the aesthetic of chapter 4's aesthetic is cool, right? Twilight Town, the boss, but oh my god. When it came to just simple game design, this chapter is a pox, bro. Like, who thought this was okay? Who really sat there and was just like, yes, that's fine. Back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. Like, holy... This chapter is so annoying.
You like, call it annoying, I call it interactive.
Oh, you call it interactive? yeah, it's very interactive with my control stick. It's always going a direction. I like how you're probably gonna follow up was like, wow, you said chapter 3 was just you fighting. Here's like an exact opposite. Like, you're just moving. Oh my god. Yeah, I don't like chapter 4. I think chapter 4 alone is enough to make Thousand Year Door not the greatest game of all time, honestly. Like, it's such a standout bad chapter in terms of just design that I don't understand what happened here. Like, I'm not like worshipping Nintendo's as these Greek gods in game design. Like, they had some good shit, I'll give you that. I don't know who the hell designed chapter 4 and gave it the okay. Like, oh my god, bro. There's so many things you could have done to just not have that issue. So many things, and they didn't. Like, this is the crux of the pace problem with Thousand Year Door. And you're thinking, well, it doesn't get worse from there, but actually, it still gets pretty bad. Oh man. Again, I like the aesthetic of Chapter 4. I kind of wish that the final boss wasn't shit. In a way, it was a cool concept, but they could have made that way better.
Yeah,
and I did like
very easy.
Yeah, like it's what they did with the final boss as he's like copying you. They could have done so many cool shit, but they didn't. It felt like such a lackluster payoff at the end too. Like it could have been a really cool fight, but they didn't. Chapter 4, bro. I'm like, yeah, if you know what you're doing, Chapter 4 literally takes like so little time. Like it's such a bad chapter. Oh my god, bro. Like, I like to argue anyone who thinks any chapter in the first game is as bad as Chapter 4. I could not tell you. Like, oh man. Again, I'm not trying to dick ride the first game, but like, it's so laughable to see such a bad chapter in this game, and then people going like, Thousand Year Door is way better. Like, no! Like, oh god. Alright, wow.
And you get to hit the B button. It's so cool.
You get to hit the B button. Alright, I won't stop bitching on Chapter 4. Because like it's my whole day. Now we go to Chapter 5, which is another like Jungle Island chapter. Which is weird that there's 2 Jungle Island chapters for Chapter 5, but I guess we're here. The concept between both of them are different. Like very different, so it's still cool. And I like the idea of Chapter 5. Where it's like, ooh, spooky island, ghost, adventure.
This might be the most solid chapter in the game.
I would think so, yeah. There's nothing that really stands out. The pacing isn't that bad, and
although they do make you walk back and forth once again at the start of the chapter.
Dude, that's just a thing in the game. Like you can't get around that. It's still like I still think it's really good. Like, it's funny too because I felt like this chapter was like the most safe chapter, but because it was so safe, I think I liked it unironically. Like, and then there's Chapter 6. Oh man, I have this laugh because I don't mind Chapter 6. I kind of like the idea behind Chapter 6 because it's funny. Like, it's a very themed, like, it reminds me of Chapter 7, the whole like murder mystery thing, and it's played up very funny for laughs here, and I liked it narratively. Like, I like when games do this kind of thing narratively. But I know Thabs hates this chapter, and that's why I'm laughing. Because like he is right that you literally do nothing but like just talk to people until you get to like a literal dungeon to do, and then you do the dungeon.
I hate socializing. I fucking knew
it. Yeah. Again, I like the idea of Chapter 6. I thought it was really interesting. I liked it narratively, and again, it doesn't feel bad pace-wise because you're just like chilling. I guess it's a little slow because of how long it takes to just get it done because you're waiting for like you to go through all the little story beats. But there were a lot of fun characters to interact with. I think the dungeon was pretty interesting. The boss, I don't know what the was that.
You don't like Smork?
I just don't know what it was.
It's like a Smork.
It's just like.
Are you telling me you don't know what a Smork is?
Yes, I don't know what a Smork is.
So a Smork is like a Smork.
Oh, okay. No, thanks. I know, I guess. I do know what this org is. Oh, man. And then we get to Chapter 7, which is... Oh, boy. Remember that pacing issue I was talking about?
Oh, no.
So Chapter 7, we get that whole fun bomb... This is actually... I have a very funny story to tell for Chapter 7. Actually, my first playthrough, playing 2000 Year Door. So, like, when I was playing 2000 Year Door the first time, Chapter 7 starts with you going to the Bomb Village, and they're asking for General Light. Now, obviously, it's a Bomb Village. They're asking for General Light. You're probably thinking of the Wipe Bomb that you see, like, in Chapter 1. So I was playing the game, like, on and off, and I didn't remember where the hell he was. I was like, where's General White? So, I looked through everywhere, like, I reverse backtrack. I went to Chapter 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And when I got to Chapter 1, they were just like, oh, General White, because I was talking to every NPC, because I was just like, I was just so done with it at that point. And then they sent me to the Goose Trail, so I went, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then 1, 2, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, I do not have fond memories of Chapter 7 because of that part, where they just kind of send you around all over the place for literally no reason, by the way. They just kind of do that. I mean, the part with the moon was cool.
Crazy.
Like, yeah, that was cool, I guess. Did end with, again, a kind of lame boss fight.
I like the boss fight. It has the audience cannon. It's very cool.
That's like the one cool part about that fight.
Yeah, that's all I remember. It's very sick.
The audience cannon. But it's basically just the same boss in Chapter 2, but stronger. As I saw it as canon. And then we get to Chapter 8, which is probably the coolest chapter, just because it's very spooky and mysterious, and you don't know what the fuck's happening. And ends up being a very crazy finale for the game, which I like. So, like, again, we went through the chapters like before, and we're talking shit here, but like, yeah, I don't think the only reason I'm talking shit here is because, like, I am tired of people thinking Thousand Year Door is literally untouchable, when in fact it has lots of issues. Like lots of issues. So many things about it. Like, I'm not even saying the first game was perfect either. I rated the game highly because I think it was like everything it did correctly, but it still had some, issues here and there. This game has very visible issues, and people ignore it. And, like, it's annoying. It's like, guys, look! Oh, man, bro. Overall, I think the game is, like, fine. Like, obviously, it has the combat that's still pretty good for 64. Everything upgraded. The partners are more interactive. There's more badges. You level up the same way. You are unlimited badges, so you can still do really dumb runs here and there. Like, I think playing with just badges only is very fun and probably the funnest way to play that game. There's a post game. They have that's where the Pit of 100 Trials thing started, where they had this, floor where you just fight 100 enemies, because obviously the people love that. They just wanted to fight. Chapter 3. There you go. But Shy.
Yes.
What did you really think of that door?
This.
Smorg. He posted a picture of Smorg. Did.
Do you like it? All my artistic talent went into that. Okay, what was the question? I was busy.
What did you really think of Thousand Year Door overall?
I mean, the combat system is magnificent. The rest is like very hit or miss.
Yeah, I like to agree. Again, we were talking about the pacing most of the time, which I can probably safely say I think it's bad. I think the combat's good. It's really good, and I think it's really carried the game for people, which is fair, because there are lots of games I play that I literally love for the combat, and everything else is very mid, but, I like the combat, so I'm playing it. The story is, your Mario storyline of fighting the 7 whatevers, and things happen. I think the underlying story that explains the whole thing with the Shadow Queen and her past is very cool, and I wish they did more of that. They don't anymore, which is, again, one of the big issues with newer Paper Mario games, is that they don't like to do lore for some reason. Like, again, you have to, like, get out of your way to look for this, but there's, like, the 4 legendary heroes, and you get all these little hints, and, spoiler alert, they're the chest that gives you the powers. This is also the same game that also, speaking of the chest, that take the more paper aesthetic of the game and actually make it a thing. Before, the paper in Paper Mario was just like, the graphic or like the aesthetic. Now it's like they put in actual game mechanics, and they did it pretty well in this game. But as you can see, this does start the trend for the newer games going forward, and it's also a big argument too, because a lot of people either like they just like the aesthetic. They really don't care about the paper at all, which is very funny to think about, because I think a lot of indie games that try to like capture Paper Mario try to do like more paper things like that. And when they do, they're just like, please stop. Just copy the aesthetic. That's all we want. Aside from that, I think Thousand Year Door is good. I think it's not. I think it's good. I just think that like there's a lot of things wrong with it where it's concerning. That a lot of people think it's the best game of all time, or the best RPG of all time in the top 10s, just because like, no, it does things. There's so many things about it that it does wrong that it's still a good game. But the people who designed some segment need to get their heads checked. And anyone who defends those segments, I mean, good for you, bud. Like, if you like that, if you like walking back and forth, I mean, I ain't gonna stop you. It's the perfect game for you. You can also just do that outside and walk back and forth.
Yeah, but that's exercise. We can't do that.
I'm sorry. I am being a little trolly here with the game.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
I just wanted to talk about Thousand Year Door is because, like, again, I do get sick of people praising the game where it has its own issues, especially since we're talking about all the paper games, and we want to be fair to all the paper games, all the Paper Mario games anyway. So we have to call them out on their bullshit. Even though I think the first game is still really good, it's definitely not perfect. And the second game, as I showcased here, is obviously not perfect. And even though it may do some things better than the later games down the line, or things that people prefer from the later games down the line, we still need to look at it with a critical eye so that we can also, we want to get a better Paper Mario game, we take the good elements from this game, not every element. It's also funny too because as we go along with more of the paper games, because they were on more successful consoles, they sold a lot better. And it could be the reason why they kind of steered away from Thousand Year Door's like gameplay style, just because it sold didn't sell as well as the other ones. But you know, that's kind of more of a console thing. I don't think that's confirmed, by the way. I just think it's a fun little theory.
But that's just a theory. What? Obviously, the next girl is getting mad pet on here.
Oh, of course, of course.
I mean, would you say no?
Would I say no?
If somehow we got the opportunity, would you say no?
Nah, I would love the idea to just fucking talk to him and roast him. Roast him. It would be funny, but I wouldn't mean to. I wouldn't be trying to be mean. We do a little joking around here. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. Yeah, there's not much really to say about Thousand Year Door aside from that. I think it's kinda a little mid. I think that overall it's still a very fun game, and I still like to stream it from time to time because it still has, again, a good battle system. A good battle system can carry any game, honestly, for me. I know a lot of people like it. That basically carried me for Pokemon for like the last 20 years. Like so.
No, is this the obligatory shoutout spot for Pokemon Black 2 and how it's the best game ever made?
It is pretty good. It's pretty good. It's also funny how Thousand Year Door was never ported up. So weird.
They just don't like the GameCube.
Yeah, they really don't. I mean, other GameCube games got ported up. Like Luigi's Mansion.
Oh god, I want to forget about that port.
Sunshine.
That I can barely call that a port.
Can barely call.
Another game I'd like to purge from my memory how it was done. Like, my update, my copy is still sealed.
My copy is still sealed. Okay, yeah. Wind Waker was what? Twilight Princess.
Bro, those don't count. Those were like Twilight Princess doesn't count. That was basically just released at the same time in a way. Like the Wii is just a GameCube.
No, I mean the Twilight Princess was also ported up too.
Yeah, it was then ported to the fucking Wii for some reason. Wii U for some reason. It was just like. Okay. I love a game that is on 3 consecutive consoles.
It's so weird. I don't know. I this is not me knocking on Thousand Year Door. I just think it's funny that they never poured up the paper games like at all. Like they pour up a bunch of random games here and there on all systems, but like you never see like Super Paper Mario on the Wii U or Color Splash on the Switch, like, or Thousand Year Door on the Wii. I guess it doesn't really make sense since they all are backwards compatible after a point, but yeah, it's still funny. But
my favorite part about TTYD was when you were able to shake your Wiimote to Super Guard.
Dude, imagine? Would have been crazy. I think that's it. I can really say for Thousand Year Door. Any other closing remarks you got on it?
I don't know. My brain doesn't work today. It's a game. I don't hate it. Like as much as I have shit talked it to a degree, as much as I've been just mad about it, I and probably will be in the future. I will get it out here. I don't hate the game. I think it's good. I just prefer 64. I just think that 64 is the overall better experience. But it's far from a bad game.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of want to stress it out too. It's like I talk a lot of shit too, but we don't want to stress it's bad. I think it's good. If you're somehow here and haven't played it, go and play it. Well, I like it. It has aged a bit. It has very questionable game design, but go ahead and play it. But that's, I think we'll kind of wrap up this episode here. Our thoughts for Thousand Year Door. We will be going back to it, talking more in depth about, you know, the combat maybe, or why the hell they were thinking with Chapter 4. Chapter 4 still upsets me, bro.
Oh my god.
Oh, before you go, what was your favorite chapter, by the way?
I think it might be the one I played the least, which is Chapter 8.
Chapter 8? Yeah. Chapter 8's such a solid... Chapter 8's such a solid good one, honestly. It's just the perfect finale.
Yeah, I just remember the aesthetic of it, which was really nice. Like when you get into this giant-ass room where shadow sirens are.
Yeah.
There's like the star thingy, which I don't know the name of right now, how you'd call that. But I always thought that looked really cool. The thing is, I only played through that chapter like 2 times in my life because my majority of TTYD playtime was doing pre-octal pits.
Ah, there you go. Yeah. I would say for people who want to know, my favorite chapter was Chapter 6. I still like it. I think it is a bit slow and kind of whatever, but I like the narrative about it. I like the interaction with the NPCs. I like when the RPGs are more more narrative focused too. Again, I like a good combat, you know? I enjoy Chapter 3's fucking hit thing, go forward, unga bunga. Sometimes it's nice. But sometimes I want a little more I like to talk, you know? See some story, see some drama. Chapter 6 gave me that. And then we fought the Smorg, which again, what is a Smorg? What is a Smorg? It's a flirt. But that's gonna be it for this podcast episode. Thousand Year Door for the GameCube. And next week we'll be talking about Super Paper Mario.
Oh boy, do we get video on for that?
Nah.
Thank God, because I don't think I could stand that for an hour talking about him being like, oh yeah, Super Paper Mario is the best Paper Mario game ever made.
Indeed. Alright, that's gonna be it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. We have a Discord down below.
You really put your faith in me that I linked to Discord?
Did you not?
I did. But I don't know, maybe I'll forget. I'm copy pasting the description, but maybe I'll forget.
I do the same thing too. So that's it for the Kooper Scoop this time. Goodbye, and remember to always enjoy the show. Bye, everybody.